Yes. Good. It looks like it's working. Greetings in the love and light of the infinite creator. I'm Andrii Zvorygin and joined here today by Ed, Bill, Adam, and Fred. And we will be reading and discussing the July 2nd, 2025 session of the Confederation channeling. And so it's going to be about building bridges and healing bellicosity. Bellicosity is basically violence and love and war, and that's pertinent to our times right now. All right, so take it away, Bill.
All right. Biondha, we are those of Biondha, and it is with great joy that we greet this circle. Much like our friends in the Confederation, we come today with much excitement and much gratitude for the invitation to speak on our experiences, to share what knowledge we have, and to connect with you, our brothers and sisters of the third density. As always, we appreciate the simple opportunity to share space in this way, and we are eager to answer your call. And in so doing, we will ask our usual requests that the information that comes through these instruments, if it be not resonant with those who read the words, that they allow it to go by the wayside and continue on in their journey of seeking, knowing that what serves them best will make itself known in its own way. With that favor granted, we will be more available to speak more clearly through these instruments. And we know for this particular circle that this is a favor easily granted, though we feel it is important to begin any of our sessions with you with this request. And on this beautiful day in your particular location on this planet, we excitedly and with much appreciation join you and sit with you, be it energetically to share in this experience of contemplation and exchange. We would ask with our deepest sense of gratitude if there is a query to which we may speak at this time. We are Biondha.
Yes, Beyonda. Thank you for being here with us. In a previous session, you said we see ourselves as bridges for communication between the third density beings and those of second. Can you talk more about how you hope to form these bridges of communication? How will serving as channel for us serve that intention?
We are those of Biondha, and we appreciate this query, my brother. Indeed, we do see ourselves as an avenue, or a friend, if you will, to connect with in hopes of sharing our experience and our knowledge in terms of how you can, or those on this planet can, explore their own relationship with those of the second density and with the planet itself. In that desire, we feel as though there are many avenues one can explore to strengthen that relationship, to foster that dynamic, and we are one of many of your friends of the Confederation that can be of support to you in this particular quest. For we see how the veil is so heavy in your experience that it is challenging to see anything outside of the egoic, identifiable, separate self as something that is within self, as something that is part of self. We understand that the configuration of your body complexes strengthens that sense of separation, that the way you communicate and interact with entities and souls outside of your own can reinforce that illusion. And if that experience is utilized differently, can be an avenue for exploring the dissolving of the separation, the means of seeing all the connection that is held within the illusion. We are those who have, through our experience, been able to establish deeper connections with entities outside of our own density by means of practice and contemplation, by means of inner seeking and outer seeking. Ultimately, the most potent vehicle for the strengthening of these relationships is the practice of opening the heart to those entities who wish to establish deeper relationships and to be of service to those entities outside of one's own density. One can also find similar means of connection through the international practice, the intentional practice of opening the heart. Opening the heart may seem to be a vague phrase or idea, And those on your planet may have a sense of what that can look like. And we would say that indeed there are many ways to undergo this practice, many steps or options one can experiment with to find ways to the open heart. The first we would suggest is perhaps one that this particular group of seekers already understands the importance of, and that is the practice of meditation. To be able to take the day's happenings, to release them, to let go of the tendrils of experience that ground you to your identity, and to find that temple of silence within, to rest and bask in that blissful unity of the sacred space. And in that sacred space, finding deeper and deeper ways to visualize, to manifest, to experience what it means to have an open heart, to study that which comes up outside of that finding, to see what can be of use to you practically when you are in your waking, grounded hours, with that practice being undertaken with true intentions. Then the growth, the widening of the heart can occur. And when those learnings are taken out into your daily experience, opportunities will arise. Catalysts will appear for you to strengthen that muscle, for you to find ways to open the arms wider, to listen more clearly, for you to see other self in the illusion more fully. It is as if each moment spent in this practice of intentional heart opening allows the self to see more color, to hear more music, to experience more of the sensory world. We say that as a metaphor for what is the reality, and that is the deeper understanding of self as creator, the walking away from the birds which tell you that you are other than the creator. And in those opportunities in which this is practiced, in those lessons that fall at your feet, one may find a stronger desire to embody that open hearted, unconditional love element that is inherent within the self. We recognize that your interactions with your fellow third density entities is likely of more, how you may say, obvious in terms of its potential. We understand that many on your planet are interfacing with other selves at a certain constant rate, that those lessons seem only to mirror that understanding of self in regards to a third density other self, and to a degree that is true. For you have chosen to be upon this planet at this time, to be a vehicle for the Creator to know itself. And the greatest lesson outside of the self is the interactions with the other selves. When two other selves of the same density are interfacing, you can imagine that the potential for growth is quite large. And so, in terms of one way an entity may experience that same catalytic opportunity is to take the learnings that one has found in your interactions with other self and utilize them intentionally in the way you communicate with your second density other self. Imagine putting your third density self in communion in some way with the second density other self and embodying that which you may see as a highlight of your third density communication. And not only that, to gaze upon your second density self with much respect, with much compassion, and with much hope that the second density self is much larger than their second density self. Erase that identity of the label of second density. See them as the other self with much more potential. See them as your brothers and sisters upon the path, allowing yourself to remove the limits that many upon your planet place upon your second density friends.
Okay, let's stop there and analyze this. Um, and then also for anyone watching, like to quickly explain that third density is like a human and a second density is an animal or a plant.
Or insect or a biological organ or anything not first density.
Right, and first density would be rocks and
Rocks,
wind and
fire,
fire,
yeah,
like pure
water,
elements,
right.
basically. Okay, So, what do you guys think and understand about this over here? Because I think this is kind of where the first part of the meat of the response is. Um, okay. So, anyone have any connections on that? Um,
Can we hear from Fred?
yeah, Fred. Sure. And I know Ed has a cat, and so may have some words to of wisdom on this.
Oh, we can't hear you, Fred.
Y- yeah, Fred. There's no volume for some reason. You might need to rejoin or fix your microphone. Try rejoining. Ed, did you have anything?
I've actually got loads to say on this
Ed,
subject. This
go
is
ahead,
one
Ed.
of my favourite things. I've got loads to say, but give me a minute. So I'll be in one sec. Is
Okay,
Fred
here.
joining up again?
Okay.
Sorry,
Well, I'll
I just got to make a cup of tea.
okay,
So
okay.
I'm gonna.
While you're doing that, I'll just read the summary then. Okay. See key points. See beyond the label. How much?
Right. Yeah, see him
Uh,
as a brother.
Release the term second density or animal as a barrier. View animals, plants, and nature beings as other selves with vast, unique potential. Yeah. So remember that they're all the infinite creator. They're not just some lesser thing. Um, by removing the mental limits of labels and seeing them not as lesser, but as fellow travelers in the creator's journey, we unlock deeper bonds, mutual growth, and shared joy in creation's unfolding. Bring your best communication. Apply the same care, empathy, and clarity you use with humans when engaging with other life forms. Listen and observe with an open heart, honoring their ways of expression. Yeah, so, just like engaging with your cat or your animals or your plants, um, you know, like I care for trees, and I try to be in tune with their needs and their wants and things like that. Respect and compassion first. Approach all interactions with deep respect for their inherent dignity. Offer compassion for their challenges and appreciation for their gifts. Um, and so, like for instance, like right now, as I'm connecting like telepathically with my plants, I can feel that my pines feel a little bit soaked right now because it's been like a lot of rain, but all the other ones are pretty happy with the rain. So that's just something for me to keep in mind. That maybe I should keep my pines in like a draining tray, not a drain, a tray that holds water. So that's part of that respect and compassion. Okay, so approach all interactions with deep respect for their inherent dignity. Offer compassion for their challenges and appreciation for their gifts. Good. Okay. Recognize shared journey. See them as brothers and sisters walking alongside you in the creator's unfolding story. And that's one of the things I like to think about with second density, like animals and plants, is that what, right now they may be plants or animals, but later on they're going to be with enough love that they're going to turn into third density, and then they might incarnate, and then they might be someone who I interact with, um, and so it can be a worthwhile to invest in them now and to be kind to them now because karma is kind of an ongoing thing, and you're going to have to heal any separation that occurs later, and so you might as well heal that separation. Mutual empowerment. Encourage their growth through love, kindness, and attentive presence. Let their unconditional presence inspire your own path toward love and unity. Practice heart opening meditations, including second density beings in your circle of care. Recognize that healing and evolution happen in both directions when the connection is honored. Yeah. So they're helping me as I'm helping them, and
I, I'd like to add that remember the second density beings, they're not encumbered by the veil. I know it hasn't said anything in this session so far. So really, they are really connected to that unconditional love of the creator and the idea of unity. And you can totally see it with some animals, even though a lot of animals and stuff, and and the plants, but a lot of animals run on instinct, But really, like with my dogs, and I've had cats, you can really see their unconditional love that they have.
Yes, yeah, especially dogs. I know a lot
Well,
of.
yeah, even the cats, I mean, they
Mhm.
have elephants and I mean, a lot of stuff in nature just as an embodiment of service to other entities when they're like not scared or hungry.
Mhm. Yes, yes. I know that. Well, like personally, I don't have great experiences with dogs, but uh, a lot of people do, and especially like the dog owners, generally for most breeds of dogs, not all breeds, like but they have an unconditional love for their owner. Um, and then I was just looking through this because I had this book recommendation. So someone in the YouTube chat was talking about The Secret Life of Plants. And oh, here it is. Plant Intelligence and the Imaginal Realm by Stephen Herod Buchner. And this is a really great book on basically plant telepathy. And it has a very scientific introduction to it, and it explains all the neurobiology of it, and it explains that plants, actually their roots are basically their brains, and they have all the same receptors that we have in our brains, and they actually interact with things just like we do. And so you can even like chloroform a plant and help make it easier for it to transplant, because for it will be like it'll fall asleep. I won't realize what happened. But I wouldn't recommend playing around with chloroform personally, but it was just an example of different things. And it was talking about the mycelium, like the psilocybe mycelium, may be good. It's kind of like a hallucinogen for plants, and it helps with their psychic interconnections with each other. So also very interesting. But yes, Secret Life of Plants, as mentioned by our YouTube viewer. Living outside the grid is their name, and yes, this is also a good book. I don't know if I've actually read this one. I may have. Okay. All right, Ed. You said you had a lot to say on this particular topic. Did you
Okay,
want to share?
right. So I'll try and keep it brief.
Mm-hmm.
Few little experiments that you guys can try. Okay, first off, if you ever get a bee or kind of big fly or anything come into your house and you want to get rid of it, try pointing at it with your finger and then very, very sternly pointing at the window or the door or whatever and telling it to get out.
A
Now,
bee.
I've been doing this for quite some time, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as it's a bee or a wasp or like a larger fly, like the little tiny flies, they don't get it. I don't know whether they're too stupid or whatever. But
Okay.
if you're very, very clear to kind of push your energy at the fly and then give it a clear direction how to go out, you will be shocked at how many times they just turn around and they follow your finger directly out of the door. So one little experiment. Other thing that I started doing a while ago. Now you guys remember I started doing this. I did this on the thing with you guys. Instead of calling my cat, yeah, I just used to literally imagine him coming in through the door, through the cat flap. Yeah, and I just hold the picture in my head of him coming in through the cat flap, and he would come in as often for me just holding the picture of him turning up in my head as he would me calling out his name. Okay, other things. So communicating with plants. Like you, Andre, I used to grow succulents, little kind of cactus plants,
Mm-hmm.
rosette forming succulents. Uh, and I very much found that I formed like a relationship, like a connection. Like I knew that this one needed water and that one had this. And oh no,
Yes.
what's wrong, darling? I can see that you're ill. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So then, many years later, after all of that, I've tried to actually talk to trees. Now, I would argue that trees are closer to third density entities than second density. Lots of other plants, shrubs, and other things like that, definitely second density. They don't have the kind of processing power. But trees are 100% as clever, if not cleverer, than us on communications that I've had with them.
Mhm.
The green gaze tree over there in my garden, I've had very detailed conversations with it a couple of times, and it said that the way that trees perceive us is basically the soles of our feet, like reflexology. Yeah,
Mhm.
all of your nerves end at the soles of your feet. So basically, from all those nerves, you are pushing out a vibratory template of your entire body that goes into the ground. If you're walking around with with bare feet, then you're putting that vibration into the floor, and the tree roots can actually take in that vibration, and they can turn that into essentially like a picture of you in their version of a head. You know,
Mhm.
uh, so then they can see what you look like, and the way it kind of showed it to me is like they could perceive like what we look like standing up from one foot, and the other foot kind of looks like a face, and it's like you can kind of perceive facial expressions and things. Um, so it kind of gets a full picture of us beamed into the floor. Now, the way I communicated with trees is I meditated. I sat there and I just tried to push, like, build up heart center, feel like a little ball of love, yeah, and just push it down into the ground, into like the roots, yeah. And then I kind of pictured it go into the roots and kind of go up the plant and back down again. And then, like, when it came out of the roots, it's like I picked up the message into me. And then it's like I put out a little packet of like communication, and then I got one back. And most of the time, they're completely surprised that a human's trying to communicate with you, but really, really happy that they are. Every tree I've spoken to has a different personality. They've all had very different kind of thoughts, but all of them have shared the same thing. It's kind of like, oh guys, I look, there's a human over here trying to talk to us. Look, they felt that we'd completely forgotten how to do it, but that's because of the fact we all wear soles in our shoes, so we're not coming in contact with the floor. So they're not getting that clear picture of us. So they just think that we can't talk to them anymore.
Mhm.
Walk barefoot, chat to your trees. Honestly, they know what you're talking about. Uh,
Mhm.
that was pretty quick. Come on, I had loads more I could say, but
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
I just
mm,
wanted to add that once you have developed a relationship with a particular plant, like be it a tree or a different plant, then actually you can maintain that relationship without necessarily having that physical contact. It just becomes like a quantum entanglement, where like you could be laying down and then you can just hear the tree calling to you, telepathically, as it were. That's covered in that Harold Buchner book. And then another interesting thing that was covered is that basically all of the best plant breeders in the world, in history, all communicated with plants. And this is just kind of one of those things that isn't highly, you know, under uh, advertised in the secular scientific establishment, because it doesn't make sense to them, this paranormal connection, but it is universal. And so, for example, they gave this there was a man who was a plant breeder, and he'd grow like thousands of plants, but then like even at a very early stage of plant growth, he would know which ones had, the best potential and the best genetics and things like that. And so he was able to select them, before they fruited and things like that, which could take years. And then he was able to find these excellent varieties of various plants. So very interesting that way as well. And then I don't know, like this one is an aside, but there was this guy Burbank. Um, what was him? Solanum burbanki. And so he basically discovered this whole species. He was looking for an edible type of black nightshade, because most black nightshades are not edible, or they're poisonous. And so, but he thought that this was actually a hybrid, but they're saying that genetically it doesn't make any sense. It can't hybridize with almost anything else, and it can't have appeared from anything else. And so it's almost like a supernatural plant that appeared just as he was looking for it. And it just goes to show, God is great, and there's like a lot of paranormal stuff going on that just isn't readily acknowledged. And so that's the wonderberry. The wonderberry, it's kind of a blueberry substitute, and yeah, I sell them. But anyhow, so maybe I'm a little bit biased. But what's really interesting is, at least the ones that I have, they fruit within like a month and a half of being sown, and then about 34% of their weight is berries. So the other stuff is leaves and stems. So it's producing huge amount of energy to just berry weight. Um, anyhow, okay. So I guess we're done that. Did you we want to continue the session then?
Yeah, I'd like to add one more thing,
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
and that is this process all starts, like they said in this reading, with the entity opening their own heart, whether it's to a third density or a second density being. So that's where it all starts, opening your heart.
Yes, it's true. Be- because that opening that heart includes all creation, and then when you recognize the divine is within all creation, including plants and animals, and then once you form that relationship with the plant, it actually goes from green ray heart into yellow ray social, so it becomes part of your family. um just like, there's like people who say that they have cat babies or whatever. So it's kind of that same idea. Okay.
And it expresses the unity.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
You may then see, as we mentioned before, that many more colors to the experience. You may be able to feel the energetic resonance between you two, may more deeply understand the love between you two, having the respect and the humility to see each other as equals on this journey. You may then empower the second density other self with the ability of self awareness, with the growth and experience this other self may need to further themselves on their journey, so that you may meet at a more common ground in your future illusory separate selves. That's kind of what you were talking about, Andrii.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
um
so that you may meet at a more common ground in your future.
yes, exactly. It's true,
We
yeah,
will,
because they'll reincarnate as third density.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go on to fourth density, then you can maybe help them from fourth density to third density.
From third to fourth, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
You're
exactly. It's
just
kind
on
of,
the
you're developing a relationship,
right.
and then you're helping to bring them into existence, into independence, because when they're in second density, they're part of a hive mind, and they don't have an individuated consciousness. And when you give them that love, you're helping them raise them up into third density.
And we're all on the
I have to
common,
say, sorry,
and
didn't
we're
mean to
all on
interrupt.
this common spiritual evolutionary path journey.
Yes, exactly.
The
Go
main,
ahead.
the main thing I've learned that from, weirdly, is my little gink. And I bring him up often.
The
But
fox.
he did definitely start off as a fox, and as time's gone on, he's learned, he's grown, he's developed as an entity, purely because of the path we're on together. And so yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I've kind of seen that kind of development spiritually of a second entity thing from a whole different side. It's very weird, but yeah. Honestly, all of this stuff fully links in exactly with that whole path, story, evolution thing. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
We would add that, noting that your journey is inherently shared, that there is no ability to separate yourself from these other selves, no matter their density, for they are all, you included, an aspect of the Creator. You may then form a clearer sense of compassion You may then be able to stand in their perspective, to view the world through their eyes, and come to a deeper understanding of how your shared journey may look more peaceful moving forward, may be of more mutual benefit, not only to you and your second density friend, but to the planet and the universe as a whole. Ultimately, the movement of the open heart, empowered by the unconditional love, will inform the seeker desiring to establish deeper and more healing connections with those of their second density friends, the ability to establish a more authentic sense of respect, a reverence, and an appreciation for what this second density other self provides. To see them in their full glory, to witness their unique gifts, and to come to terms with what a blessing each fragment of this creator truly is. And with deeper understanding, with authentic and genuine respect, you may find yourself more harmoniously intertwined, one being able to sense more clearly what that is that moves that other entity, and perhaps vice versa. You may see that your connection not only grows deeper, but becomes more innate to you, to your inner being, that you begin to sense each other in more instantaneous ways, more below the surface ways, more energetic ways. With more open eyes and more open heart, you can begin to see the immense potential in this dynamic. To find again that respect, honoring them as inherently beautiful and intentional and individual parts of this larger mosaic. This beautiful collection of experiences and identities that inform and teach the whole. As you walk on the shared journey together, you are healing. You are healing yourself. You are healing your other self. You are healing the planet. And you are healing the universe. This happens in ways seen and unseen. Perhaps you inspire a fellow third density self to be more present, or be more respectful, or to be more loving to another third density self, to a second density self, to Mother Gaia, to situations. Perhaps you teach your second density friends how to be more accepting of love.
Yeah, that's, you know what? Well, I've just reminded that there's this new cat pheromone that they came up with based on, because sometimes people get a second cat and then they fight. There's like a bully cat, and they attack the other cat, and there's hair flying, and there's a lot of meowing and yowling, and it's really upsetting to the cat owner because they just want them to get along, and that they actually have this cat pheromone based on the mothers. Cat mothers produce this special pheromone in order to get their kittens to get along, and so they've actually synthesized this pheromone, and you can now apply it to your cats, and they will smell it, and then within a few weeks they'll be like hugging and licking each other because they're fellow kittens. It triggers that fellow kitten pheromones. And so, well, that's one way you can teach your second friend to be more accepting of love. But also in terms of, say, you have a dog or even a cat. I mean, dogs are easier to train, but you can, train dogs not to bark and to be gentle with others and things like that. But yeah, you generally have to get that really well done in the early years. Okay.
You see, the potential, the opportunities are boundless. The possible outcomes are infinite. And ultimately, they are all beautiful. For no matter which way you step on this journey, all will be well. We simply share this knowledge and experience that we have on our own journey. For those who feel resonance to that desire, think upon your second density friends in an experience of wonder, as those who are beginning to learn the lessons of self awareness. See the world through their eyes, how vast, how exciting, how scary, and see the way that they show up in unconditional love and service to one another, to the planet, and perhaps you, too, may feel inspired to take the cloak, the cane, and to be an additional shepherd of that unconditional love, to be a way shower, and to help inspire those around you to be more present in their own experience. to witness the planet in its full glory, universe as well, and to see the beauty of the illusion and the love that created it. That is the true gift of your
Yeah,
shared dynamic.
I just wanted to comment on that and say that a lot of it is the example that we set through our lives and how we interact with others. Like if you have peaceful and kind interactions with others, dogs and cats, but dogs especially are very sensitive to how their owners interact with others. And so if you are, say, afraid of someone, the dog will be afraid. But if you are kind and gentle with them, then they will also. And so, we're constantly setting this example, and then all the plants in the area are also watching. You got to think about that. We're living in a living and thriving universe where everything is interconnected, and we always have an audience. And so, we got to do our best to love and be kind to one another. Okay.
And these last few paragraphs, the Confederation is really, or Biondha is really trying to share with us a perspective of how we can look at things, look at the beauty in everything, that it's creator, that it is the creator, and that it was created out of love.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty, like it says, see the beauty of the illusion and the love that created it all. That's the perspective they're trying to share.
Yes, for sure.
That is the true gift of your shared dynamic among many other relationships you will have in your varied incarnations, for they are all opportunities to learn the lesson of love. We are those of Biondha, love feeling as though we have come to a point where we are testing this instrument further. We would ask if there is a follow up to this question, or more we may speak to on a similar topic.
All right. So any other reflections on this answer before we move on?
Well, one thing I'd like to point out
Mm-hmm.
is that in the raw contact, I think it's around 30 or so or something like that. Um, Elkins is asking how a second density uh, entity, once they're self-aware, becomes inspirited. Because it's like you said, it's a hive mind. You're a body, you're a mind body, but you're not a mind body spirit yet. So Don was asking, well, how is the spirit, how is the entity inspirited? And Ra responded with something to the effect of, um, it is something that was always there, basically. So, when I think of these other creatures or entities that are on the path a little behind us, it's like they got the consciousness that's for them, just like we have it in us, that's sitting there and always was. So that also gives me I see the equality in all of us, in all these entities, because of that kind of that all of us were this consciousness that always was.
Mm-hmm. I see it kind of like, when if you can imagine like magma, right? And then like this is the formation of like a first density thing, and like everything is magma, and there's no individuation within the magma. And then you have the magma, and it turns into solid granite, like a big, flat thing. And then that flat plane may have a consciousness of its own, and then there may be some weathering, or like meteor strike or something, and then like some of it might break off, and then you have a rock, and then that rock is individuated. It is now an individuated rock. And so I think of it as the same thing. So like say you have a cat, and then the cat is like, oh, say like a wild cat, and the wild cat is just part of the hive mind of cats. But then you start developing, it interacts with a human, and then it starts realizing that has an individuated consciousness, that it is somehow separate from other wild cats. And so it already has that consciousness, but it's growing. is growing because of the love that it is given, and then eventually, just like how the rock separated from the larger, field, the cat or the large boulder, the cat separates from the hive mind, and then turns into a third density individuated complex. Well, at least that's how I imagine it. Mhm. So
And
it,
and
Mhm.
and I would add that there have been people with near death experiences and yogis and other people that have said they were a rock. They remember when they were a rock in the past.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember being a rock too, and
Wow.
a plant. So and yeah, our viewer said that the path is the goal in Buddhism, and that is for sure. It's also in the Confederation because your origin point is the infinite creator, and your destination point is in the infinite creator. So really, all the enjoyment is in between. you know, the path is the goal, as to say. So enjoy your life with love and kindness, or whatever
And
resonates with you, and we have to respect other people and their choices.
be grateful for the experience.
Yes, for sure, exactly. Yeah, thank you very much for that very beautiful perspective and how to relate to our second density. In that response, there were a couple of times where you referenced that you are sharing this from your own experience and that you hope to pull upon your own experience to provide the service. And I was wondering if you could speak some about the experience in the hopes that learning of your experience might reveal new ways of being and relating for us.
We are those of Biondha, and we appreciate this query, my brother. We shall attempt to move more deeply through this instrument, allowing her space to connect and release the insecurity she feels. Having felt more established connection at this time, we would state that we may share a little bit about our own journey and how we came to this knowledge, but hope that does not become too much of a story, you may say. For this knowledge, these experiences are shared by all in this creation. We simply find different ways to tap it and unlock that group knowledge. We are of a soul stream which has had many rounds of experience through incarnations, throughout the densities in which we were gifted, many opportunities to learn the respect and love. We have had many lifetimes on many planets, witnessing the we are beyond it. And again, we would remind this instrument to take a breath, for this instrument feels a bit uncomfortable speaking our words at times. We have had many incarnations and lifetimes witnessing pain between entities, the utilizing and weaponizing of densities against one another. Though it was not clear in those experiences that there was a density difference, just a sense of witnessing intelligence and seeing certain other selves as less than due to their intellectual ability, due to their physical ability. And we have had many lifetimes also experiencing the wonder and beauty of connection, of moments wherein realization occurs that all is connected, and that these labels we affix to ourselves are simply there to inform us of an illusion that is more grand and more connected and more fluid than words can begin to describe.
Okay,
There have been
let's just pause briefly, just to connect with this in terms of we have this on Earth right now. The weaponizing of densities against one another, and the differences of witnessing intelligence certain other selves as less than due to their intellectual ability, due to their physical ability. Like for instance, like Descartes, he believed that since animals can't talk or speak French, that means they don't have feelings. And so that led to scientists making all of these horrific experiments on animals, because they're like, oh, they have no consciousness because they can't speak French. um and so and then it was similar to other people, but then on Earth also we have had some people and teachers that speak about wherein the realization that all is connected, and like lots of people get that in psychedelic visions as well. So we've got people realizing this over and over again. And I know that when, for instance, I promote peace, even though I'm sober, like pretty much all the time, and but when I promote peace, love, and kindness, occasionally I get remarks of people claiming that I have ingested psychedelics or something like this, and this is part of them being in that other selves as less than, and so they're kind of.
Oh, that's wild. I never thought of it like that. So
Mhm.
when you are just in your own vibration, they're just, oh wow.
But you know what? There's an opposite side to that, because a lot of times these people are projecting, and because they're projecting, they are and they're looking at you and comparing yourself to you. Then they're looking at themselves as somewhat less worthy, unworthy, less than, because
Ah.
they're not looking at the way you're looking at it through the eyes of love. They're thinking, oh, you got to be really, messed up on psychedelics to experience that. And that's, not the case. And I think it
Mhm.
has to do with projecting and feeling of unworthiness. So a lot of times there's always that flip side to the thing. That's why, Ross says he didn't like using the term ego. You liked using the idea of feeling unworthy.
Yes, yes, it's true. I know. I remember a fun thing that I read is that those of you who wish was from the Paul Selig context, um,
Oh,
and then they said those of you who wish to get rid of ego will be pretty upset when you can't remember where your house is or what your name is, because that's your ego gives you that information, and so it is kind of an important part of you. The So it's not really about getting rid of your ego, it's about recognizing the divine in all, and so which that they consider to be.
and at that point, these guys are correlating identity with ego. You have to have ego to be separate to have the identity.
Yes.
And that's not really the case. I would look at it as more of a love and acceptance of self. I am this entity. I was given this name, Bill. That's how I've been described, and I love and accept Bill. I'm madly in love with Bill because Bill is the creator, and he sees the creation, sees the creator in all things, and everything is love. And so Bill has an identity at this point. But Bill also understands that everything is one,
Right.
and that everything's connected. So I can, as I love and accept myself, I love and accept the other self. So and I can love and accept their identity and them thinking, and I can love and accept that they correlate ego with identity. That's just how they're having their perspective.
And it's just that also I know someone personally who like they were kind of tangential to a spiritual group in what do you call it, when I was living in Toronto, and they had expressed that they really wanted to experience ego death, and they happened to get into a car crash where they experienced total amnesia, and so they forgot absolutely everything about themselves, and so they actually did have a more spiritual reboot after that.
Wow.
So, but anyways, my point is that it's not about not having a sense of self or an identity, which is indeed at least in some versions of reading. Say the Buddhist nirvana is exactly what it is. It is the dissolution of identity. Um, because then you just become one with the infinite creator, and that is the end of the goal. That's the end journey. But we have
That
to.
that would be going into the next octave.
Yeah,
That's
well,
kind
that
of
would be beyond going
like
to the next
seven
octave. that would be
Right.
joining with the infinite creator. So that
Yeah.
would take trillions of years on a normal timescales.
And we've actually had the Confederation describes like Lotwe or one of these things. They talk about the point where they can release their self identity, But
Mhm.
so they see it. So it's down the path. But at the moment, our job is really starts with loving and accepting ourselves.
And on understanding that all is connected.
Right. Right.
Mhm. All right, let's go on.
There have been many generations of our soul stream that has gone through healing. And it is through that healing, through the witnessing of pain, through our own journey of fumbles and foibles, to see our own self forgiveness and acceptance, and through the experience of acceptance and love and understanding for other selves, that we come into this knowledge. Now, we do not call it knowledge to give it a heightened sense of importance. There are many more avenues for explanations, for exploration to heal the dynamic between you and your other selves. Many more of our friends of the Confederation who could share on this matter. We are but one of many, many who, from afar and within, support you. The book, if you will, of knowledge is infinite. So many pages, some unturned, filled with this kind of information. We are but one page in that book, and each day of your experience is yet another day and another page in that book. Again, we stress that our knowledge that we share with you is not of supreme importance. We share as your fellow self. We share as your fellow journeyman, as your friend along the path, and not from some exalted perspective or position. It is simply our experience, and one that we hold very dear for the opportunities they provided us. And we feel that our service is merely to share those, and if they resonate for them, be of help to you. This instrument is struggling to speak more deeply the information that we are imparting upon her due to a sense of insecurity. We recognize a sense of not wanting to put too much weight on specific details, to not get lost in the plot, merely to be of assistance, to share the more universal perspective that we have. And so, respecting that feeling with this instrument, we would ask if there is another query to which we may speak.
I guess it must be Trisha channeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any more reflections, Adam? I know you were saying something. I don't know if you want to finish your thought.
I don't remember what we're talking about. What are you saying?
Oh,
I was just
well, we were talking about how
Ego?
yeah, well, no, just before the ego.
the densities, the seeing the difference between them
Yes,
less
Oh,
than
yes, yes.
yeah. I
People.
just made some notes that I wrote down. Recognize the divine in all, and ask myself, where am I feeling worthy around this situation?
Mhm. Yeah, very good.
Unworthy. Yeah. So,
Excellent. Yeah, and that's something that we can reflect back to other people that, if they feel, greater than as Bill said, that probably they're feeling some unworthiness too.
but this it's probably super subtle too.
Yeah.
Like it's probably going to take some convincing of like questioning. Like, oh shit, you're right. I was feeling that way.
Hmm.
You
And
know?
yeah, it does take self-reflection, but oftentimes, superiority and inferiority complexes, go hand in hand, because it is that kind of service to self pathway
Yeah,
where
but some people are
people
just
jump.
doing it the way they're talking. Like some people are just not great communicators. You know how there's like pathological liars,
Hmm.
and then there's people that you just gotta suss out. Or some people they're like, okay, they're just in their they're like playfulness, and you can't take anything what they say is like legit or serious right now.
Yes, yes, I know. Hmm.
But there is that caveat of the service to self being who thinks they are above everybody else. And
Yes.
and I actually don't even think that has ego. I just think that has, you know, they love themselves and think everybody should too. That's exact, and if that's how they're going to polarize, so
Well,
be
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's a valid
It's
path of spiritual
right.
evolution,
Yeah.
even though it's a longer way to the creator.
Yeah, I mean, it just must be so exhausting trying to control and manipulate everybody all the time.
You would think so, yeah.
Yeah, I just, so
But yeah, we're on that forgiveness, love, and acceptance page.
right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Are there any other ways in your current service that you hope to achieve your goal of helping to build these bridges? For instance, do you do any other work besides offering yourself as a channel? Or do you work directly with second density beings on Earth at all?
We are beyond it, and we appreciate this query, my brother. We feel as though our work is not, we correct this instrument, we feel as though the service we desire to provide is not one that is merely by means of your channeling efforts. We feel as though we attempt to make connection with other selves in many other ways outside of the channel experience, other the channeled experience. We feel deep connections with entities of other densities, of other experiences, of other perspectives. But to put that into words, which would help to describe what that looks like, is challenging. We attempt to utilize this instrument to communicate those means and finding that she is struggling. Ultimately, being that there is but one being, that being the Creator, it is expected that our experience and connection here is merely a reflection of many other experiences and connections, and that our service with you today is a service to those outside of you today, and that our ability to be of service to the one infinite Creator knows no bounds. That in the larger perspective, there is no Beyonda. There is no circle here. There is no second density friends. But instead, there is this dance of energy that is constantly informing itself, that is constantly serving itself in loving and tending and compassionate ways. And in that, we are in communication with many entities, not just those in the circle today, but not just those of the third density orientation, for the Creator moves through each and every one of us. With each passing of your moment, with each moment, we are but a collection of notes in the great symphony of creation. We all played together to create harmony and dissonance, and we are doing so in a co-creative manner. Feeling as though this instrument is losing her ability to focus over time, we will take our leave of her and allow this instrument known as Gary to receive content from one of our friends of the Confederation. We thank you again for this opportunity. We are Biondo.
Beyond. Yes. Yes, very good. And so did they answer it, or was it a kind of a roundabout?
Yeah, they didn't give any specific examples.
Okay, yes. And I think that's basically Trisha's still working on her self-worthiness
Well,
as a channel.
I also see it as like they don't want to give specific examples of stuff as well because of turning it into dogma. And I take, for example, specific examples of, what Jesus did out of the New Testament. Like you have the, what the, you know, healing, bringing the guy back from the dead, or the Good Samaritan, any of these stories. Once they can become personalized, and then people can put a dogmatic spin on it, and then you start to lose the spirit of what really was going on there.
Mhm.
So I think they're trying to avoid that.
Right. Um. So, but yeah, they do say that they talk to many entities from
Right.
other densities. Um. Yes. Okay.
As there are infinite ways to serve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. I mean, just like we interact with second density entities. So
Right.
there we go. All right. Any other last comments on this animal topic before we move on to Halos, which is about war and peace and all that?
Well, I think they did a beautiful job.
Yeah. It was nice. Oh,
Were we reading something recent, or we
Yeah,
yeah. July 2nd, 2025.
yeah.
okay, so they got the other people back, Biondha and the other
Yes.
guys.
Yes. So Beyond is channeled by Trisha, and apparently Gary channels Halos. And Halos, his or their main goal is about conflict, helping to resolve war, things like that with peace and that kind of stuff. So very interesting. I'm very much looking forward to it. Oh, but one more based on the YouTube here. Um, so they were mentioning Nirvana is being okay, and
Can't hear you, bro.
Nirvana is okay and even in love with the present moment, regardless of what it offers. And well, my understanding that would be equanimity. And in the Confederation, a material they talk about being a crystallized.
Can you start your thought over what you just had, because we kind of missed the beginning of it.
I think he was reading the chat.
Yes, I was reading a chat. So basically, they were talking about the word nirvana, but I think
Oh,
that
okay.
they really meant equanimity, which is a kind of where you feel like a modulated, somewhat happy, regardless of what's happening on the outside. And so that is kind of a state that is achieved through regular meditation. Um, and so, yes, and then in the Confederation contact, it's referred to as being a crystallized being. So that regardless of basically what's
It was like a
happening outside.
51% like happiness kind of vibe, like just like a not too overly emotional one way
Right.
or another, just a very balanced like
Yeah,
ha
it's
ha
kind of
ha,
like
but
a
like it's
general
every
sense of
now and then ha
joy.
ha ha.
Exactly, a general sense of joy, and just kind of like escalating joy as you continue a life of service and love and kindness. I know Linda's partner. What was his name?
Morris.
Morris often talks about it. Yeah. So it's basically it's one of the effects of regular meditation and regular spiritual work. All right. So Fred, I don't know if we managed to get your audio yet. Fred? No. Because I mentioned meditation. I know you have a lot of strong feelings about that. But all right. All right, I guess we'll move on for now. Bill?
Okay. We are those known to you as Halos, and it is with gratitude that we thank our friends of Biondha and the instrument for receiving their message, that they may have the opportunity to speak their particular slant in the seeking and the serving of the one Creator. And we would enter this circle through vocal transmission in order to do the same, to speak to that same essential message with a slightly different flavor due to the uniqueness of our own journey. Not, we would clarify, especially unique, but unique in the way that all individual and collective journeys of the Creator to the Creator are. We pause so this instrument may work out that which your peoples call a Charlie horse. Oh, that's painful.
What's a
We
Charlie?
find
Oh,
an
wow.
instrument who is striving to We find an instrument who is striving to offer himself to us to his fullest capacity, having invited and encouraged use of his beingness for this service. We also find an instrument navigating some fatigue as well. We will offer our best as these instruments are further trained and as we learn to interact together. We are Halos and would ask if there is a query to which we may respond.
Okay. Please, thank you so much, Halos, for being here and for offering your service to us. In a previous session, you said, among our specialties and strengths is that of the healing of war, the mending of hearts, the constant attempt to be mercy to those caught in cycles of retribution and bellicosity. Thank you for offering yourself to our planet at this particular time. The perception of many is that what you call the flames which consume and burn upon our world are burning quite hot lately. Can you please explain a bit more about how you hope to serve towards this end in offering yourself as a channel? And how can the service of channeling and the channeled information serve toward this goal of helping to offer cool waters to douse or extinguish these flames?
We are those of Halos, and thank you. We find a template of channeling established within this instrument, which we make use of, and we would speak first to the latter portion of your query regarding our hopes for the channeling service. We do not expect that these words will be broadcast to or heard by the vast majority of your world. We do not expect that a transcript, as you make it, of our channeling will drop into the laps of warring factions and create for them an epiphany that leads the warring parties from bellicosity to peace. In channeling, we have the same basic hope that our companions within our Confederation have, and that is that we may inspire those consciously upon the path of spiritual seeking to continue their journeys with an inspiration, perhaps towards the release of the fight and the seeking of peace within and peace among peoples. As to the former portion of what we believe was your query, there is the service outside of the formal vocal channeling, which we magnetize ourselves to upon your world, and that is the ministering to the souls of your world with a broad mission to be envoys of peace, to help promote community and well-being, to help invite those who wish to leave behind the torments of violence that they may walk into the light without harm. That is, without intention to harm other beings in your world. We are champions of compassion, you may say. Is there another query?
All right, let's unpack that. What did what did they say? Who caught that?
Well, what they said is we want people, especially on the spiritual path, to walk away from violence and walk towards peace, and find peace within and peace with other people. And then, you know, and at the end, it basically says, to walk into the light without harm, and that is without intention to harm other beings in your world. And they're, like they said, they're champions of compassion. So it's a very compassionate, like all Confederation social memory complexes. They're all very compassionate and against violence, and they want us to walk in peace. And ultimately, the you know, kind of peace they're trying to get us to be unified enough to where we can go into fourth density and have our own social memory complex, even though they don't say it. But that's kind of the goal. But peace has to start from within.
Very good, very good. Thank you. I just noticed Ed had his second density friend there. So this is what ChatGPT managed to get it. So through
Yeah,
channeling,
he really enjoyed the last bit.
Mhm. Inspiring seekers towards peace, we have the same basic hope that our companions within our Confederation have, and that is that we may inspire those consciously upon the path of spiritual seeking to continue their journeys with an inspiration, perhaps towards the release of the fight and the seeking of peace within and peace among peoples. Halos makes it clear that they are not aiming for direct mass change through transcripts falling into the laps of warring factions, but rather to nourish the hearts of those already seeking so they can radiate peace into the world. Outside of channeling, ministering as envoys of peace. The ministering to the souls of your world with a broad mission to be envoys of peace, to help promote community and well being, to help invite those who wish to leave behind the torments of violence, that they may walk into the light without harm, that is, without intention to harm other beings in your world. We are champions of compassion, they say. All right, so they're seeking to plant the seeds of peace. Very good. Very good.
And they also said they know that these words and these transcripts aren't going to fall into anybody that's out there warring.
Well,
It's just
I personally would not put such limitations. But
no. We're always hopeful.
yes, exactly. Okay, let's try here. Yeah, a quick follow up on that topic. Is there something on your own journey that has caused you to arrive at this particular focus, referencing the bellicosity and the war? Is there something that you experienced that has created this intention within you?
Like many of those who have traversed the difficult walk of the third density experience of consciousness, we have known warfare on various levels within our own past. We have shed the tears and suffered the sorrows of the great tragedies that fighting among family, among planetary fellow brings to a world and to the heart. We have brought ourselves to the brink in our past, but we emphasize that our journey is not yours upon this planet. And our circumstances, though on one hand, in common with all third densities, were also uniquely our own. And we would not elevate or showcase our experience as being a model. We speak only in order to clarify that which helped to forge our own relationship to this phenomenon of bellicosity and our commitment to a way of peaceful being. I want to make a comment because they said that they came to the brink in their past. And so I kind of see them like Hatan, kind of in a way.
Yes, that they may have gotten into some serious trouble on their planet, just like Hatan. They had run out of resources basically, and their planet was basically a wasteland devoid of resources.
Yeah.
So their
They
graduation
were on
to
the
fourth
brink as
wasn't
well.
Yes,
their graduation to fourth wasn't like a great example, is what they're saying?
that's quite possibly what Halos is saying. Is that much like Hatan, they want to have a better future for us than they themselves had, and they may be concerned that if they share their example, we may follow their example, which they don't want us to do.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
because
kind of makes me wonder now because it's like they were just talking about like not seeing, they yourself as less than or more than another, but like if you had your example of how your planet graduated, like I guess, and it's a question you're asking, but I guess they're not asking that question, so that's also like a free will thing. So if they had worded it a bit different, they could have told a lot more.
Well, they kind of said they were on the brink. So that would give you a good idea why
But they
Halos.
still graduated, so I mean they
Yes,
did something right.
they were
but
the
that
more successful. They were more successful than Maldek or Mars.
Yeah, but that will give you a good idea why they're experts on bellicosity and
Oh, I
violence.
see what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why they're. I see.
yeah,
The ones,
we can imagine what the brink is.
yes, the ones who had successful, peaceful transitions without much war wouldn't be able to really weigh in on because they wouldn't really understand why we're upset or
Right.
violent or bellicose or whatever.
Yeah. We were able to, shall we say, find alternative means which were much less destructive to settle our disputes until we could leave behind the worst of this experience, that it might live on in the shadows of the past as dark episodes, which helped to inform us of our fuller, whole nature of the extremes to which a being is capable of going when the heart closes by degrees or fully, and how the choices that can be made in such darkness are destructive of the integrity of the soul, leading to violence towards other selves and the self in an attitude that desanctifies a sacred world.
Okay, I really want to unpack this because it feels like there's something important here.
Yeah, it's like super practical. I guess they are telling us what they did.
Hmm. Unpack this.
I like how they said the experience might live on in the shadows of the past as dark episodes, which kind of means they fully accepted it, but they still recognize what it is.
Yeah,
That was
it
a
reminds
dark
me of like
episode.
that QAnon stuff where they said, "Oh, they're gonna all it's gonna come out and you're gonna see it on TV or whatever." But then you 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 got to still have that in history, but like accept that the elites were playing their part and you're finding other ways to settle your disputes.
Well, yeah, that's what we're doing despite those people.
Hold on. I must have quoted the wrong. No.
Yeah. It's the paragraph we were able to say,
Paragraph.
we were able to, shall we say, find alternative beings.
Yeah. It's just this so-called GPT-5 maybe is not as smart as I thought. Hold on.
Well, maybe you need to go back to 4.
I think it's the way you're prompting it too.
It
I
might.
haven't messed with
Maybe
the
I gave it the
pre-prompts.
wrong. No, I did give it the right one. Oh, I don't know. It just got confused, maybe. Okay, hold on a second. Final.
I find it they get
there.
confused.
Okay.
If you open a new chat each time you do a new prompt, it's way better. I found.
Oh, yeah, sometimes. Okay. But this one has more context of our session. Anyways, we were able to, shall we say, find alternative means which were less destructive. They began replacing violent conflict with non-destructive ways of resolving disagreements, likely through dialogue, cooperation, and other peaceful processes, until we could leave behind the worst of this experience. Over time, these peaceful alternatives became the norm, allowing them to abandon the most harmful forms of conflict entirely. That's great. That's excellent.
Yeah.
That it might live on in the shadows of the past as dark episodes. The memory of these violent times still exists in their history, but now only as painful chapters from the past, no longer part of present reality. Yeah, and just like, like medieval torture and stuff like that. Hopefully is in
So-
the past.
What do you think these alternative methods are?
Well,
Like practically, can we ask it ChatGPT, whatever?
well, it believes it's dialogue, cooperation, and other peaceful processes.
Yeah, I mean, you would start looking at things in a win-win way. How can I get advantage? How can you get advantage? How can we both,
like
know,
China's modern
benefit,
approach.
benefit from what's going on here? We're looking out for the well-being of each other in creative means, and then to do that, we would kind of have to go situation by situation, circumstance by circumstance to kind of answer Adam's question. But
Is it like signing new contracts?
or maybe
Well,
not even having it. It
Yeah.
starts with opening your heart.
Yes, it's true.
It always starts with that, and once I mean, when these guys go to the brink, like he described, like Hatan described, they had to come up with, Hatan's like, crap, we better, whoever's remaining down here, we better start working together or we're just going to become extinct, and so they start, people, start loving each other more friendly. If there's like a personal problem, I know I had a buddy from Kenya, and he said when there was a problem in the tribe, they would kind of stop and actually have like an elder or somebody and have dialogue with the two people that are having the beef.
Yes. Here, I got ChatGPT to do that, and it actually included what you just mentioned, mediation through a neutral, trusted other selves. And so, likely methods for resolving disagreements that are Confederation alive, open-hearted dialogue in a sacred space. Conflicts might have been addressed in gatherings where all parties entered with an intentional opening of the heart. Such dialogue would focus on seeking understanding rather than victory. They may have begun with a shared meditation or invocation to center all parties in the awareness of unity. This is actually very important over here, seeking understanding rather than victory. I read this book on negotiation by Harvard University, and they found that the most successful negotiations are focused on principles rather than position. So a position might be like, this is where we want the border to be, and then the other party's like, no, we want the border to be there, and then so it's not very good. But the
Say that again. Principles versus what?
position.
Positions.
So the principle would be like, we want people to have a good life, where they are cared for and loved. and then the other party's like, you know what, that's something we can agree with.
Yeah.
You
A
know,
position would be more for individual benefit, whereas a principle would be more for a group benefit.
yeah. Hmm. And let's look at some of these other options as well. Mediation through neutral, trusted other selves. A respected counsel or individual could serve as an impartial mediator, ensuring each voice is heard without distortion. We sometimes have this. These mediators would hold the intention to service to all, not favoring one side or another, like Trump is trying to mediate between Russia and Ukraine right now.
But isn't that the translators too?
Well, the translators are supposed to, I mean, they do that in a sense, but they, that's not really the translator's job to do the mediation, though they may do it by not translating things accurately.
But if you think of if you were a law of one translator and like you were going to be really good at your job, you would try to it wouldn't necessarily say what they're going to say. You would translate, what they're getting at.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Like I know it happens lots of times in politics. The the politicians might say, go F yourself, and then the translator might say, and we want some space right now, or something like that. So they're not gonna do the literal translation there.
And it's like instead of having generals negotiate, you have statesmen or people that work in the State Department or whatever do the talking.
More humanitarian people.
Yeah, you probably don't want the military to be doing the negotiating.
Because you don't want the people that are
But
profiting
right now the
war
media is
to
doing the
negotiate.
negotiating.
Well, the media does they're just lying.
Well, the media is more about announcing things.
Yeah. Oh, and one other thing is in the first part of that, can you go back to the screen in number 1?
Mm-hmm.
I think can you go back up to 1?
Open-hearted dialogue.
Yeah, I can't see it, but they're starting to reflect positions and principles where the people that are coming together with these mutually beneficial solutions are actually more spiritually aware, are actually, believe in something outside themselves, because these kind of principles are talking about, are getting to people that would be on a spiritual path.
Mm-hmm. So I did get an analysis here, and it's from this book I read. It's called Getting to Yes, based on principled negotiation. So moving from a win-lose mindset to a mutual understanding and shared solution mindset. So Harvard Negotiation Project identified 4 core principles. Separate the people from the problem. Don't see the other party as the enemy. See both of you as partners trying to solve the same problem. This aligns with the Confederation teaching of seeing other self as part of the self, not as an opponent in defeat. The Halos imagined peaceful councils. Disagreements would be reframed as shared challenges rather than personal battles. Focus on interests, not positions. Positions are fixed demands. I want this land, while interests are the deeper needs or the values beneath them. I need security for my community. When parties listen for interests, they uncover shared ground and unexpected solutions. This is very similar to seeking understanding. You go beyond the surface statement to what the other self truly needs. Invent options for mutual gain. Instead of assuming only one side can win, both parties brainstorm ways all needs could be met. Confederation-aligned communication could frame this as co-creation, turning the conflict into an opportunity for creative service to both selves.
And on that co-creation, you not only want, if you have highly spiritually evolved people, you want people to not only be co-creating with each other on their different side, but doing it with the creator and the universe as well. You try to throw that into the mix too.
But wouldn't alternative means also be like taking people out of power so that you can actually deal with the situation? Because like I feel like in our world we have these people that are just like, no, we're not negotiating. It's our way or the highway. But it's like, that's not how you negotiate. We don't need you.
Well, you just in order to get rid of the people is very difficult. The idea is to try to break through that part where they don't want a negotiation through these methods of mutual cooperation and not looking at the position or like looking more at the principles rather than the position.
Right. You're weeding out the position and the principles at that
Yeah,
point.
you're emphasizing the principles.
Yeah, which is could be very difficult on this planet.
Yeah.
So it's a group, not individual. You're trying to come to a group consensus and get people more aware that like
Yeah.
we're gonna do
Yeah,
it this way.
So
like
say okay.
not a corporation position, because a lot of positions are like in our world, it's a corporate thing. And the corporation is just only interested in profiting for themselves. And that's what generally runs all our politics is these types of organizations.
Like, because I just think there's something happening with the war that's on pause or whatever, where there's people in power, and maybe those aren't the people that are going to be the ones to negotiate with, because they're like, hey, I'm not the actually one wanting this. There's people above me, but it's like the rest of the world doesn't know that though there's people above them that are the ones pulling the strings, and until you can be like, we have to cut that off and talk to those people to get them on the same ground, like those people are just non-existent and invisible to the world. How do you negotiate with something that you can't interact with, or that's just
Well,
pulling,
that's the problem is those guys profiting from war are also owning the media.
That's also part of the problem for sure. But here, I've compiled this to help address and also bring it to our current situation here. Can we even Trump harvest negotiation? Okay, so applying the principles of Zelensky, Putin, Trump mediation, separate people from the problem. As mediator, he could reframe the conflict not as Putin versus Zelensky, but as two nations trapped in a shared suffering. This means avoiding language that demonizes either leader personally and instead acknowledging that is the real opponent is war itself. Um, okay, well, here, if we look at the previous one that didn't have Trump in it, perhaps it might make a
I mean,
little.
isn't that the one what they're doing though now? Like you can, it's more than just acknowledging it though.
Yes, well, I mean, in a way, Trump was focusing on the death counts and things like that, but Zelensky is
Oh, I see.
massively under announcing how many people are dying, and that's leading to some massively false presumptions that that war is safe, because almost no one is dying, but it's just not true. But
And also in that dynamic, it's not Trump versus Putin and Zelensky or whatever. It's actually Putin versus Zelensky and the other way around, because they've had some very bad word, especially Zelensky towards Putin. He's demonized him
oh yeah, a lot.
all over the
Tried to
place.
assassinate him many times.
Yeah,
He's openly
right,
talked
right,
about it and
right.
everything.
Yeah.
So they're not the greatest players to come to a peace negotiation.
Yeah. So here, Putin and Zelensky are personally tied to the conflict's identity. Each embodies the stance of their nation, which makes compromise feel like personal defeat. So separate the people from the problem. Shift the focus from Zelensky versus Putin to the peoples of Ukraine and Russia versus the suffering caused by war. Negotiators could frame talks as two leaders jointly facing a shared tragedy: death, displacement, economic collapse, though that's not happening in Russia, instead of facing each other as enemies. Focus on interests, not positions. So current positions: Russia, security concerns, territorial claims, geopolitical influence; Ukraine, sovereignty, safety, independence. But also the security concerns, like Zelensky was yelling about it for years. Underlying interests: Russia, fears of NATO encroachment, desire for recognition and security guarantees; Ukraine, assurance for self-governance, freedom from invasion, safety for its people. Confederation lens: when stripped of propaganda, both seek security and a stable future. Dialogue could explore how both nations can feel secure without diminishing the other's sovereignty, a solution that honors each side's dignity as other selves. So invent options for mutual gain, possible creative openings, internationally guaranteed neutrality for Ukraine in exchange for complete withdrawal of Russian forces. This is never going to happen. I don't know why.
What does that mean?
Well, Russia's not going to withdraw from the territory it has already. This is
Yeah, they're gonna take some of it. Yeah.
absurd. Yeah, but
No, they're staying in the Donbass for sure.
yeah, no, like okay, so if we were to rephrase this to something more realistic, so guaranteed
Russia's not gonna
international
take
guaranteed
over the
neutrality
whole
for Ukraine in exchange for a cessation of the progress of the
Right.
war. Like I heard that Trump is offering all of Donetsk to Putin as well as everything else he's
I've
captured.
never heard of that country.
Donetsk is not a country; it's one of the provinces. Like Putin already has 75% of it. So
Yeah.
you know,
And it's funny that Trump thinks he's in the position to make that offer in the first place.
well, in a way, he is because without his weapons, Zelensky is nothing. Because
Oh yeah,
I think there's
for
plenty of other
Ukraine,
people that'll fund Zelensky.
no, they could fund it. They just don't have the resources to manufacture the weapons or
Yeah.
provide them.
No, they can't fund it. Actually,
We're not manufacturing the weapons. We're just giving them old weapons. That's what the other countries are doing too.
It just the Europe's already run out of all of its weapons.
right.
Right.
And they don't have the energy to produce more because they're not getting energy from Russia.
And just today or yesterday, in the other conflict, Germany stopped sending weapons to Israel.
Yeah. So like they're not, basically Europe is a declining area. They're massively running out of energy. They can't even afford air conditioners.
Right.
Tens of thousands of people are dying from heat stroke every year.
They don't need air conditioners.
Tens of thousands of people are
It
dying.
gets to like 70 something max.
In Europe, maybe in Britain, but not on the mainland. In the mainland, tens of thousands, like 50,000 people are dying on average every year from heat death.
And Europe is turning into a third world country. A lot of places.
So
Really?
exactly, they have their own host of problems. They can't really help Ukraine all that much. Anyhow, economic and cultural rebuilding partnerships supported by neutral third parties, so both nations can benefit from peace. So perhaps that's good. Humanitarian corridors and cooperative
That would
relief
take, like,
projects
the
to rebuild
media,
trust in
wouldn't it?
small steps. What? The media?
To rebrand the whole situation.
Well,
Yes.
The key word there is neutral third parties. And there hasn't been a lot of neutral third parties. There's a lot of people with interest in the Ukraine. I mean, that's why they had the 2014, where the United States State Department and the CIA destabilized the democratically elected regime or government in Ukraine, and that's kind of what started this.
Yeah,
president.
some with Nazi sympathizers.
Yeah, they put in a bunch of, and then they started.
But if Russia knows that, then wouldn't you have to start? Russia would have to start, talking with the United States to be like, "Yo, let's."
They
stop
have.
that. That's the main problem.
That's exactly why Trump and Putin are planning to meet. Next week or something.
Yeah, on the 15th, I think they said.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I haven't been watching the news. That's too cool.
Yeah.
It's way overdue.
Yeah. And so here, humanitarian corridors and cooperative relief projects to rebuild trust in small steps. Well, they already have, there's lots of Ukrainian people moving to Russia, though probably not vice versa. They just have to prove that they're not like Nazis, basically.
Right.
Yeah, because sometimes they find Nazi tattoos on them, and they're like, "Sorry, we can't accept you." You've got Bandera right here. So, anyways, Confederation principle: co-creation replaces domination. Solutions are designed so that both parties walk away having served their people.
Right.
Okay. Insist on objective criteria. In practice, agreements grounded in internationally recognized borders, treaties, and human rights laws rather than subjective interpretations of history. I don't know. This might be that there's a little bit of a censorship thing in the ChatGPT. I don't know if maybe internationally recognized is good, but I know the BRICS, they're very, very sensitive about the international human rights laws and treaties that U.S. does not actually follow.
Well, technically on the recognized borders, the
Yeah.
Ukraine never registered their borders after the Soviet Union came apart. So technically,
Oh,
the Ukraine has been part of Russia this whole time.
that's
So
wild.
technically,
I didn't know that.
Russia never really invaded a foreign country. They went, they basically, the way I look at it, they went into the Donbass region because in 2014, when they took over that area, about 20,000 Russian people were murdered by the Ukrainian government, and it just wouldn't stop.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
Didn't
there
know
They
was,
that
were
either.
heavily
Holy crap.
bombing Donbass, and basically part of the Minsk agreement was to recognize
right.
Donbass as an autonomous region, and Zelensky refused to do that, and they just escalated the bombardment, and
And then
that's when the war
Oh,
started.
And
wow.
then there's the hub of Ukraine being a child trafficking deal,
And then they had those bio,
The
like
biolabs, they had like,
71. Yeah,
yeah. I was
yeah,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
those are the US biolabs, and we're trying to help
right,
them to cover
right.
it up because that's who
yeah,
the fucking COVID.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Just after COVID, so it was, very sensitive.
One thing I noticed is when the Ukraine war started with Russia, I stopped getting a lot of spam on my phone.
Really?
Yeah, it like went way lower.
What kind of spam?
Like where it says scam likely,
Oh, okay.
people call. I used to get phone calls all the time, and all of a sudden it like dropped about 90%.
Oh, because they were like,
Yeah, they were in a war footing.
oh, okay,
They had to shut down the servers in the Ukraine.
oh, I see, I see. Wow. So, objective criteria mirrors Confederation teachings of the highest law is unity. Any agreement should be tested against whether it preserves dignity, fairness, and respect for life. Yeah, so I think really it has to be focused more on basically those higher laws like human
Right.
rights and things like that. Things that basically all parties can agree upon are valid.
And you're kind of getting into spiritual values at that point because
Yes.
in the world, a lot of the guys that do this is like, why are you doing that? Oh, because I can. I'm more powerful than you. There's no morality about thinking of the other self. There's just, I can do this because I can.
Hmm. And Confederation aligned translation of understanding over victory. In this lens, the point is not who wins, but how both sides can heal. The victory mentality fuels the god of war archetype Halos described, feeding cycles of dehumanization. The understanding mentality asks, what is my other self truly fearing? What is my other self truly needing? How can I meet it without denying my own needs? Well, that's pretty deep.
So what do
And, and
both
if you
sides need?
Okay.
and if you go to a higher level, you can say, how can I meet it, even if I have to deny my own needs? That's really a higher principle.
Well, yeah, but they can't deny their own needs because their needs are the needs of their nation, right? They can't deny the needs of their nation.
Of course they
Um,
can.
well, I mean, they could, but that would be,
I mean, basic needs is
abandoning
food,
their
shelter,
nation.
water, clothing,
But
and
they made that law that like the president can't be tried with anything that they do in office. Like,
Well, yeah, yeah, I know, but it's just like Zelensky's basically Putin's like, you're supposed to do the Minsk Accords, and then Zelensky said, "No, I can't do the Minsk Accords. The population will never stand for it." Now, it is believed, from some sources, or at least that basically the Nazis, who are funded by the CIA in Ukraine, were putting pressure on Zelensky to prevent him from honoring the Minsk Accords or having a peaceful settlement. And then we know that Boris Johnson also came in and specifically said, "Don't sign a peace agreement."
right.
And even now, as Trump is trying to do a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia, the UK is the main agonist who's saying, "No, we want to be there because we don't want you to bully Zelensky into having peace." So maybe it's MI6, which is
Not,
the
yeah,
Secret Service, not the
yeah.
CIA, that
No,
is more involved in these Nazis.
yeah, it would be a combo of MI6, CIA, and Mossad. It's
Yeah,
usually
yeah,
the
yeah.
triumphant of evil right there.
Right, exactly.
And not all of their group is that way, but they've been infiltrated by these occultists that
Mhm.
this is what's happening.
So here, if we look at it from the Confederation, okay, so what is my other truth self truly needing, and how can I meet it without denying my own needs? So Zelensky's perspective: what is my other self, Putin, truly fearing? Loss of strategic security if Ukraine aligns with NATO, perceived erosion of Russian influence in the region, historical narratives of vulnerability to Western powers. What is my other self truly needing? A sense of safety for Russia's borders, international recognitions of Russia's relevance and powers, respect for Russian cultural and political identity. How can I meet that without denying my own needs? Offer neutrality of or specific non-NATO guarantees in exchange for full withdrawal. Oh my gosh. Oh, again with this full withdrawal. Anyways, for a reasonable cessation of hostilities, and restoration of some, well, and maintaining sovereignty for the parts that are unoccupied. Agreed to cultural and economic cooperation without compromising. Oh my gosh, this is I don't.
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's nonsense. Yeah.
yes, frame agreements so that both sides can present them as a win domestically.
Hey,
yeah.
You know what? If Russia wanted to be in Kiev, they would have been in Kiev a long time ago.
Yeah, and they were in Kiev, and actually, what do you call it? Zelensky said that you want me to sign this peace agreement, so withdraw your troops from Kiev, and Putin withdrew his troops, and then Boris Johnson showed up and says, "No, don't sign it," and so they tore up the agreement and killed one of the peace negotiators.
Yeah, that's smells of the city of London right there.
Yeah, so unfortunately. Okay, hold on. Look, please update this to be more realistic.
Yeah.
Russia will not withdraw under any circumstances. That's completely unrealistic.
I feel like the U.S. has a large part of this. They have to recognize Russia as more and have more of a relationship publicly, and it's like, are the United States citizens going to accept that? Are the liberals going to be like, no, it's one side versus the other? It's like,
well, you remember we're dealing with the triumvirate. We're dealing with the city of London, the financial arm. We're dealing with Washington, D.C., the military arm, and the Vatican, the spiritual arm. These guys have been doing it to the whole world.
Though, like, at least I get to interact with the Pope. Pope Francis. He really mended his ways, and then Pope Leo is like,
wait, the Pope Francis that just died, the frickin' Jesuit.
Yes, the Jesuit. Like
he mended his ways. Are you sure he didn't die in like
pretty sure we killed him?
They put in a body double.
No, I'm pretty certain. Like, I did have my suspicions that Mossad may have had part in his death, because several days before he explicitly made statements against Israel, and then what do you call it? J.D. Vance visited him.
He shook his hand. That's what killed him.
Dead
Whatever
the next morning.
Shook his hand with, yeah.
And so there were some mysterious circumstances there, but my feeling from Pope Francis's soul in heaven, because I got that whole bridge between the spirit world, is that he doesn't really want us to dwell on that aspect, and rather to see the good that he did in the world, because he doesn't want to be a party pooper or whatever. It was a really beautiful time anyhow. So anyways, this one's more grounded. Okay, so needs to operate within the hard constraints you've identified. Russia will not withdraw fully from occupied territories, not in the foreseeable future. Okay, good. Okay, idealistic peace, conflict, de-escalation, harm reduction. Okay, so what is my other self, Putin, truly feeling? NATO's military presence on Russia's doorstep, loss of Russia's image as a great power, a precedent of losing territory after military action which could undermine internal stability. What is my other self truly needing? Strategic depth in border regions, recognition, explicit or tacit, of Russian control in certain areas, a narrative of victory to present domestically. How can I meet this without denying my own needs? Shift from aiming for full military reclamation to securing Ukraine's core sovereignty and Western integration in the remaining territories. Yes, this is realistic. This is realistic. Negotiate a freeze line or long-term armistice paired with economic security guarantees. Though, those security guarantees are worth nothing. But I think that it has to really be on that spiritual footing in order to have any realistic, um, future. Keep political pathways open for future reintegration without conceding legal claims. Okay. Keep pathways okay without conceding legal claims. Well, this is kind of not very good, but all right, we'll leave it at that. Putin's perspective. What is my other self truly feeling? Loss of an independent Ukraine. Okay. Ongoing threat to further territorial encroachment. Being forced into a deal that erases Ukraine's identity. I guess, yeah, if the war keeps going long enough, that's exactly what's going to happen. What is my other self truly needing? Security guarantees that Russia will halt advances. International recognition of Ukraine's independence in the territory it still controls. Restoration of trade and stability without constant attacks. Yes, this would be very nice and reasonable thing to offer and to grant. How can I meet that without denying my own needs? Offered to lock current territorial lines in exchange for sanction relief and a neutral status agreement. Though personally, I don't even think they care about sanction relief at this point.
Sanctions on Ukraine?
Well, sanctions on Russia. They don't seem to care about the sanctions.
It doesn't work.
Oh yeah, they didn't work at all. But neutral status agreement is something that Russia would like from Ukraine. Allow Ukraine continued cultural and economic sovereignty without interference in its remaining regions. That would be kind, and reasonable. But there's that international.
But cultural and economic would be just the opposite of Western entanglement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maintain Russia victory narrative while reducing costly active fighting. Yes, that would also be good. And so I just wanted to add to this that there is that international law against dehumanizing people. And that is something that can be applied in both regions, both in Russia and in Ukraine, at the very least.
How so?
In the realm of media. Well, in terms of that, in Ukraine, they have an issue of calling Russian people orcs. They believe that they are living in Lord of the Rings and that they are the elves and that the Russians are the orcs, and they call them orcs and zombies. And there's a lot of dehumanization of Russians in their media and in their general publications. And so this is, not compatible with having a neighbor at peace. And so you would have to remove that. And then conversely, in Russian, at least in the Telegram, I don't know if they have this on their public media, but they call them ho-ho, which is, technically it is what it means is a Ukrainian, but it's used as a pejorative. And so that could be, dissuaded, but also comparing Ukrainians to pigs because they like to eat pig fat. So that could also be reduced or eliminated, at least.
Just stop name calling.
Yeah,
we should all do that as a whole
humanize
Earth.
And there is at least in Russia, there is a strong narrative that Ukraine is our brothers and sisters who are unfortunately under mind control of Nazi regime right now. And we're doing our best to liberate them. And so there is also the positive narrative. There is no such positive narrative in Ukraine that I know of. But anyway, so there would have to be some kind of human rights. And this is basically what Russia is saying when they say denazification. I hope. And then I see we have some comments. So Someone is asking me if I'm stoned. Absolutely not. I'm completely sober. Have you
I am.
guys? Okay. Oh, it's a bunch of drug stuff. No, it has nothing to do with drugs. It has everything to do with loving and being kind to one another. And it's actually what we were just discussing that
I think you got a comment from a person on drugs.
yes, so yes, most
He's trying to
likely
relate, bro. Tell
rejection.
him you're high
Right, right.
on life.
Most likely it is you that is having these drug experiences.
Right.
Consciousness, what a drug.
Yes. We can forgive, love, and be kind to one another while being completely sober. Okay. So, anyhow, let's move on. Okay. So, how can I meet those? Okay. Victory narrative while reducing costly active fighting. Yes. Trump's perspective as mediator. What is my other self, Zelensky, truly fearing? That any frozen conflict will turn Ukraine into a second Crimea situation, losing US and Europe support if the war becomes less urgent. Um, okay.
Didn't the people in Crimea vote for the Russians to take
Yes.
over?
Yes, they did. What is my other self, Putin, truly fearing? Any mediation being used as a backdoor for Western influence, uh, being cornered into symbolic concessions that weaken his domestic standing. This is pretty insightful. What are they both truly needing? A way to stop high intensity warfare without appearing to surrender. Sanctioned relief and economic stability. I mean, if they cared about that. Okay, domestic narratives that allow them to present a settlement as a national achievement. Yes, definitely. How can I meet that without denying my own needs? Propose a phased freeze. Immediate ceasefire along current lines. Okay, that's exactly what he is saying. Joint humanitarian and reconstruction zones. Well, it hasn't gotten that far. Gradual sanction relief tied to verifiable restraints in military activity. I mean, that's not really a lever. That's a lever that's broken. So I don't think that Putin would care so much. But I'm sure they wouldn't mind sanction relief. It's like they would be happy to have better cooperation with Europe. I've seen some Russian influencers say. I think one of them was the Belarusian guy. The Belarusian guy, he would be happy to have good relationship with Europe. Lukashenko. Use my political capital and media power to frame it as a Trump brokered historic stabilization, boosting my own profile while reducing global risk. Yeah, it would help him, transcend his recent, scandals. Confederation perspective on this realistic frame. There's no longer a scenario of full reconciliation and unity. It's about containing the God of War archetype so that the spiral of destruction doesn't deepen. Um, what do you mean? You could still have full reconciliation and unity because they're all one people. The understanding mentality still applies. Leaders look beyond positions to see the core fears and needs driving the other side. The aim shifts from total resolution to minimizing harm. It is still total resolution as we are all one being and with human rights respected, flags are just fancy colors on pieces
All
of
right.
brick. Okay, anyhow. All right. So,
I'm with Trump right now. Just stop the killing.
yes.
Just
Yeah.
stop. Get a ceasefire and figure it out. Just you guys quit killing because there's not going to be nothing left of Ukraine at the way this is going. They're going to
Yes.
run out of a whole generation or two.
Right.
They
Okay.
need-
So, oh man, we're actually way past 9 because we've been so deep in this. So I don't know if any concluding remarks. Oh, and I see our YouTube commenter. He has said, "This society fuels my hate." Okay, so Mama Tansy is her name, and so how can we help her have more love and kindness in the world?
What?
Starts within.
So we have a YouTube listener who says
See the
that,
creator in all things.
Why do you gotta think you gotta help her?
well, we
You
have to
think
help
she's
all
lower than you,
beings.
bro?
No.
She's on the same page. She's agreeing with you.
Okay. Yes, but this is the same person that was just accusing us of being high on drugs.
Okay, what does she have a personal
Yeah.
thing really beside a general overview of how we can help with peace in the world?
Okay, apparently
Is there a personal problem she has?
no. It's actually they're saying they're a boy.
Oh,
Okay, so from a Confederation perspective,
women don't comment.
can we help someone who says that society fuels their hate and is lashing out by condemning others? Okay. Okay, internal pain, unmet needs, or deep fear that's been unacknowledged or unhealed. The collective war thought formed larger cultural and societal currents, politics. The Confederation would not approach them by arguing against their hate directly, because opposition often strengthens the wall around their heart, but rather by offering mirrors of love, safety, and dignity that make another path feel possible. See the creator self first. Erase that identity of the label. See them as your brothers and sisters upon the path. Before reacting to the hate, remind yourself that the person is more than the distortion they're expressing. Holding them in your inner vision as a fellow spark of the infinite helps you approach them without adding your own judgment to the fire. Listen for the fear beneath the condemnation. What is my other self truly fearing? What is my other self truly needing? Even in hateful statements, there's usually an unspoken word, fear or loss, fear of the irrelevance, fear of being harmed, fear of being unseen. Your role is not to validate the harmful view, but to acknowledge the pain that's fueling it. I hear that you feel and that you must be heard. The possible outcomes are infinite, and all will be well. If society is amplifying help, you can hate. Yeah, you can become a personal countersignal. Speak respectfully, even when they don't. Share stories of connection and humanity across divisions. Live in a way that shows the dignity and cooperation are possible in daily life. Protect your own, maintain meditation, grounding, and connection to your own heart center. These energies are not that which is to be fought within the self precisely, but to be accepted and loved as part of the self. Energetically, this loosens the grip of the war thought form of both them and you. So it is the healing that can be catalyzed but not forced. Your service is to be a available bridge, an embodiment of patience, compassion, and respectful boundary. I can okay. They removed their various messages that they did before, and we thank you and we embrace you in love. Okay, Confederation style. Okay.
It's
And then
funny when you're on the path of love and acceptance, a lot of the people of the world think you're high on drugs.
Yes, quite possibly. Yes. All right. So
what's wrong with you?
Right. Exactly. Well, how could you be so kind? Beloved other self, child of the infinite light, we see the pain that weighs upon your heart, the shadows that whisper to you of the separation and danger. We see the world that has taught you to guard yourself with anger, to shield yourself with judgment. We honor the strength it has taken for you to walk this path, even when it has been steeped in fire. We honor the truth that you are more than the storms that move through you. May you remember the quiet wellspring within, the part of you that is unbreakable, unstained, and forever connected to all that is. May you know that no word spoken in fear can truly diminish the beauty of your being. We send you the light of understanding to soften the edge of your hurt, and the warmth of compassion to dissolve the chains of your resentment. May you see, even for a moment, the face you condemn as mirrors of yourself, and in that reflection find both mercy and freedom. Walk gently, dear one, you are loved beyond measure, and in that great heart of the Creator there is no exile, only the long journey home, where every part of you is welcomed and made whole. All right, and so with that, we'll close. And so as we find you, we leave you in the infinite love and the infinite peace of the infinite Creator within you and all around you, my friends. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the infinite power and the infinite peace of the infinite Creator.
All right. Did you make a note of where we left off, Andrii?
I will.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So I ended the stream. Okay.